a long time ago, well, several years ago, I heard a statement from a great person that I would consider as a mentor, a friend, who's a pastor, father, loving husband, just a great man of God. I remember we were having a small group session, and he makes this statement, and I will forever remember this statement. Now, I'm not going to say exactly word for word, but I'll just let you finish off the ending. But he made this statement, and sort of, I'll give you the scenery. We're in a very small room like this, have a little small group session. We're all talking as young adults are, college age, guys and girls. We're on our laptops, we're texting on our phone, seeing any last tweet, any last Facebook update before the teacher comes in to give out the Bible lesson of the day. And he comes in all nonchalantly, and we're not paying him any attention. We're just doing our own thing, minding our own business, talking about each other's days, having a small talk conversation. And when I look back, I couldn't tell you how anybody's days was. I couldn't tell you what tweet I was looking at, what Facebook information I was looking at, what email I was trying to email real quick. But he said this statement, and I'm not going to say the whole thing. I'll leave the ending for you to fill in on your own. But he says this statement that as he walks in, he took off the jacket, placed it on the table, and he says, hundreds of people are dying and going to hell every day. And many of us don't give up. And I'll just let you fill that one in. And he said it softly, and like, did he just truly say that? Looking back to my friend. So I know he's not starting because he gets loud and hyped when he talks about the Bible. So we go back, and he says it a little firmer. He's like, hundreds of people are dying every day and going to hell. But the problem is, so many of us don't give up. You have my attention now. I am interested to see where this is going to go. And he asked the question, why is that? Why is that, guys? So for the rest of the time, we had a conversation, talking about why do we lose perspective? We get so mad at the curse word that he said, but we lost the overall topic. We lose the overall perspective, the bigger picture, that every day people are dying and going to hell. But we get more offended when we hear a curse word in a Bible lesson than we do the overall picture. Now, when he said, why is that? You know what some of us stated? We're scared of rejection. We're scared of this and that, and it keeps going on. And we talk about how some of us, we have a pride issue, so we don't want to feel rejected. For some of us, we don't feel like we're trained properly to reach out to others the way that so many great evangelists and pastors do when they talk about the gospel to one another. And we started going on and on. We started making up excuses and reasons why this and why that. And I did some research from the Center of Disease and Control. They did a study in 2011 about how many people die in the United States a year. And they sort of average it out. It fluctuates. And it's over 2 million people die in the United States on a yearly basis. And that fluctuates into thousands depending on what's going on that year. And so I thought about the 2 million. Okay, well, let's just be gracious and cut it in half. And let's say half those people, you know what, we're Bible-believing, God-fearing men and women of God, and we know where they're at in eternity, and hopefully we'll see them soon. So that leaves 1 million. Okay, well, let's just cut that again. Let's cut that, and let's just say that 75% pass away. 75% out of the 2 million every year pass away. And they believe in God, and they love the Lord, and they do everything they can, and they end up in heaven. That leaves around 500,000 to 1 million, fluctuating. If we take that little gracious statistic that I just made up, and that many people on a yearly basis are dying and going to hell. That's a problem That is an issue that we lose the perspective sometimes. Now, I love it when Jesus makes this statement in John chapter 4. And this is right after he talks with the woman at the well. And the disciples come up and they make this comment about, Jesus, you hungry? Have you got anything to eat? And he makes this statement about perspective. And he says, my food, said Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me, to finish his work. Don't you have a saying, it's still 4 months until harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. You know what? I might be the only person that believes in it, maybe some of us here, but I believe that sometimes we allow small, finite circumstances dictate an eternal conversation that can take place. You know what? There's opportunities that we can reach out to loved ones, neighbors who don't know Jesus. And we try to find weaknesses within ourselves, and we try to find excuses why we shouldn't have a conversation that could eventually get them to meet God eternally in heaven. And we make a finite circumstance to overlook an eternal conversation. Sometimes we act like Jonah. We make excuses. Man, sometimes we act like the spies in the promised land. It looks good at first, but we got some issues. Or maybe we act like Moses and we say, I'm not gifted in that. No, there's no way. You know what? For me, when I was growing up, for those who like to sort of judge by appearance, it's all right. You can judge me. I'm not going to judge. But I was a typical jock growing up back in middle school, high school, elementary school. I acted like one, talked like one, walked like one, played like one, and so on. But I knew of an individual, though. I knew most of my life. And this person was sort of the opposite. At that time of my life, in middle school and high school, we grew up together. We knew each other, family, friends, went to the same church. Their family was part of starting the church plan with my family. So we went to the same junior high and high school. We saw each other on a daily basis. But this person was anti-sports. He didn't want anything to do with it. He was more into art, into drama, and music. And it was like, yeah, I like music. I was in fine arts. I understand drama, but that sort of wasn't my thing at that time. I was that beef-headed, hard-headed, weight room junkie, athlete jock. So I made that excuse of, if we see each other, we'll say hi, but that's about it. And I allowed a small, finite circumstance to dictate an eternal conversation to take place. And you know what? We both went our separate ways in life. We saw each other every Sunday. I would see his parents drag him to church. He wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't know why. I didn't ask. We would say small talk, hey, how you doing? That type of thing. And we never really connected, and he couldn't stand church, didn't like it at all. And we would see each other in the hallways at school, and in passing, he would make some smart aleck comment about, so you're gonna get your Jesus on tonight at church? That's what I'm gonna do. And he'd just make some excuse to sort of just try to irritate me. I would try my best not to allow it. Sometimes I failed, I made mistakes. But as time went on, I never talked to him. I never asked him why. Why do you do that? Why is that? And time went on, and I allowed these circumstances to pretty much destroy a conversation that day. So we went on our separate ways, and we just did our own thing. But what's funny, though, is 1 year after college, Southeastern here, go back to Ohio, become a lifeguard. I didn't see this person for 3-4 years now. We go up, and I found out I'm working with him. And just out of curiosity, we're lifeguarding together, sort of a dead day. It's cloudy, it's a little chilly up north. Not many people show up at the pool, so the lifeguards just have a conversation. So we started talking about, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? How's your family? What have you been up to? And at that point, I started to ask him, hey man, I never had the guts to tell you this. Well, why do you do what you do? Why do you act the way you acted when you were younger around me? And I finally got the boldness to say something like that. And he was like, Kel, you know that's the first time anyone from our entire church ever asked me anything like that. And I was like, go on, man, you got my attention now. And he was like, you want to know what my problem is? I was like, got 5 hours, man, shoot. He was like, my problem is this. Ever since I was a little boy, I struggled with homosexuality. I tried to hide it for the longest time. When I was in high school, my parents caught wind of it. They found out. Because of their role in the church, they got upset and they didn't want people to know that their son was struggling with homosexual tendencies. So he was like, Kel, every day after school, for years, they would force me in the kitchen table and force me to read scripture about how the Bible's against homosexuality, how relationships should occur, and they made me memorize that stuff for hours on end. I had to be dragged to counseling 3 to 4 times a week, Kel. I was forced to go to church when I didn't want to. I had nothing to do with it, and it scarred me. And I just looked at him, I apologized. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't talk to you sooner. I almost missed an opportunity. Now, to make a long story short, we had a great conversation. We talked. We had a great man-to-man, heart-to-heart conversation. And I can tell you to this day, he's slowly getting rid of some of the scars that the church has sort of left on him about how much bad he was hurt. But I think that sometimes we miss so many opportunities of how we can reach people. Instead of that verse where Jesus tells his disciples before he goes back into heaven, go and make disciples, I think sometimes we tend to add our own little passage of scripture in there. And we say stuff like, if I'm bold enough, I will go. If God leads me, I will then go and make disciples. Or if I have the right training, I'll go. And I still talk to him to this day. I can tell you some good news. He's loving life at this point. He's got a great relationship with his family. And he's slowly getting rid of the scars. But my challenge is that with the busyness of our lives, don't let a finite circumstance hinder an eternal conversation that can take place. Don't allow a weakness, a prideful situation to destroy eternity for someone's life. So I challenge you. Look at the perspective. Look at the overall perspective of everything that we do. And I challenge you to go out and make disciples. Thank you.